Well, that music came to an abrupt end.
Did you
Usually
hear me,
you fade it out.
Talking about my tie?
Pardon me?
Oh, no, never mind. That's okay.
Welcome back to Left, Right, and You on WRMN 1410 AM.
It was bowling.
You were bowling?
It was bowling, yeah. Go ahead.
That's it?
All right.
I'm done.
Are you leaving?
No, let me ask you a quick question before we get to our next guest.
Go ahead.
I ranted real quick on Libya. What are your thoughts about?
I think that the president waits and sees what the consensus of the public is, and then he takes a position. That's what I think he did with Libya, personally.
Yeah, and how do you feel about the president talking about turning over our troops to NATO's command rather than our command?
But our command is NATO. We do command NATO, so our officers are commanding at NATO. But you missed last week. I said I never thought in my lifetime that I'd see the French were leading the U.S. in a war. I thought that was so. God bless the Prime Minister of France. It's the first time I ever thought I'd see something like that. I think that like Donald Rumsfeld, to steal his quote, I think the mission should dictate what the coalition is. I don't think the coalition should say what the mission is.
Very good.
That's I stole that from.
Well, I didn't
Rumsfeld.
think it was yours.
Yeah, very little. I say is mine. But I think that what is it? What are we trying to do there? I don't understand. We have a no-fly zone 2 days after he doesn't have any airplanes. There are no more airplanes, so why do we have a no-fly zone? He doesn't have any airplanes.
And then the question is, where are we going to go next?
We could talk about this next week.
But yeah, there's a lot there. But
yeah, it is.
Let me introduce our next guest, who is currently, I believe, an Elgin City Councilman, John Steffen, and also a candidate here in the election April 5th, which we forgot to mention in the beginning of the show. So, hi, John. How you doing?
How are you, Councilman?
I'm fighting a cold.
Okay. Oh.
Partly because of the campaigning.
We'll lean towards Paul then.
So you're anti-cold.
Well, I'm anti-April elections. I'd like to move this in July if we could.
And on Saturdays, huh?
Right. So he said. So basically, what he's saying is, don't vote for me in April. Wait till July. No, that's not what you're saying, though, right?
No, that's not what I'm saying.
Okay. See, you got to be clear about these things because some people will interpret it completely wrong.
I'm just picturing delivering flyers and trying to stick signs in frozen yards. It's not fun. Not fun in the winter.
Okay.
There's still snow on the ground in places, isn't
there?
Yeah. Yep. So, how are you?
I'm doing okay.
Can you tell us, how long have you been a councilman?
I'm finishing up my first term, so I'm 3.5 years in.
So you have every right to run again. You should at least get 2 terms in there, I think.
Well, I will take that as a kind of a backhanded endorsement.
No, I think everybody should get. I think there should be term limits, and I think there should be public financing of elections. But that's for another time. You can come back and visit us again. But I think if you're in there for 20 years or 30 years, like some of your colleagues have been in there, I guess, for 30 years, what are you doing? It's like the Beach Boys. Okay, let's sing that song again. In my room, let's go. What are you doing after 30 years there? So, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
Okay, go ahead. Well, you don't feel good, so I'll take it easy.
I'm finishing up my first term, and, as you guys have heard from other candidates and know generally, is that the economy tanked about 2 years ago, so the biggest issue we faced is trying to live within a budget that's shrinking and revenue sources are going down. So, we've done that in a lot of ways, and I intend to continue to do that. That's one of my main campaign points is to continue to try to find efficiencies and decrease our spending and cut back where we can.
What's the biggest loss of revenues for the city?
Well, it's unique because according to reports that we got, this is the first time in the city's recorded history, recent history, where all 3 major revenue sources have gone down at once.
What are those? Because I don't know.
Our 3 major revenue sources are sales taxes, income taxes, and property taxes.
Okay.
And in prior recessions or prior slowdowns, one of them would get affected or 2, but not 3. And we've had all 3 take a hit.
Okay.
So we are, we're down $8 or $9 million from where we were 2 years ago. So we're looking for ways to save money. We're looking for ways to be more efficient, and that's I intend to keep doing that.
Mm-hmm. And what have you done we saw for the last 2 years?
Well, we went through 2 rounds of layoffs. It was letting go 80 people was one of the toughest things. Well, it was 50 people, 80 positions. So let's be clear. We eliminated about 30 positions and let go about 50.
It's about 15% of the workforce.
Right.
Yeah. Wow.
Yep. And that saved us some money. We're outsourcing things when we can. Some examples that come to mind is we hire a private contractor to snowplow our cul-de-sacs and parking lots. It tends to be more efficient and more cost-effective to do that. We a little while before that we outsourced our waste management. Garbage collection now is done privately. We're always looking for ways to do that. We outsource our economic development. I mean, that's tied into the business license, which I know is a big issue, but in the larger context of implementing that business license, we did outsource our economic development efforts. 2 years ago, we had 2 full-time people at City Hall doing that.
I'm sorry. When you talk about economic development, could you put that into layman's terms? What that actually means? Because it's so broad. I really would like to understand it clearly.
Well, some of the things that are done in economic development is attending conferences. The biggest complaint on the east side, or one of them, is the fact that we don't have retail. We're missing. So, it's trying to talk to businesses, trying to talk to franchises, trying to talk to shopping centers, shopping center owners, people that develop shopping centers, restaurants. They go to the nationwide conferences and promote Elgin at those. They take leads if somebody wants to come into Elgin, a business is interested, and they get a contact, direct or indirect. They have to follow up and chase that down and see what that's about.
So when you talk about economic development, you're talking about bringing additional businesses into Elgin, maybe into communities right now where there aren't businesses. That's what you're talking about?
That's a traditional what people think about. But there's other things. I mean, we're trying to be better about talking to the businesses that are here. I mean, one of the things that we did in outsourcing this process to the chamber was to make sure that they were going around to the largest, starting with the largest current employers in town, so that they would circle back and talk to the people that are already here and find out how's it going, what are we doing right, what are we doing wrong, and make sure that we're talking to the people that are here in addition to trying to bring more people here. That's a main part. Another part that I'm involved in the workforce development committee in the chamber is to work on our underemployment and unemployment.
This is tough.
Well,
This
it's
is going to be tough now with the state, Caterpillar, and these other businesses now. I mean, to get people to stay in Elgin.
The governor said Caterpillar's not leaving.
Yeah, okay, well, that's fine. And he believes in unicorns, but that's no. But seriously, that's a tough thing. I mean, because getting new companies are leaving because they're going out of business. There are a lot of different reasons, but getting people to come, new businesses to come, it's going to be very difficult.
Well, on that level, I think the partnership so far has been really successful. They've been bringing businesses in, large businesses. I mean, on that level, we're being very successful. But it's, there's a lot of areas that we have put off or we need to pay more attention to. One of workforce development. I mean, we've got unemployment of 10.9%.
It's big.
It's one of the highest in the state. I think I'm on that committee, and what we're finding is anecdotally, we kind of know what is going on in the city, but we don't have any hard data. I mean, picking up on your prior council candidates' expertise, we're trying to locate the data within IDES and other places where we can try to find out exactly the details on who's unemployed and why, and try to fashion some programs to address that.
If you had, what would be the 3 major things you'd like, if you could get reelected, what would you like to accomplish in the next 4 years? If you could have 3 wishes for the city of Elgin, how's that? That's a good question.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a good question.
And you were just talking about somebody believing in unicorns. So
okay.
No,
I mean, you could have a magic wand. You could have anything you want to do. We'll do an Anthony Robbins on you here.
So are you pro-unicorn, I guess is what we're asking.
I mean, if you have 3 things that you'd like to see happen in the city in the next 4 years,
well, I think
what would they be?
The 3 biggest things are that I'm running on. These are my 3 biggest issues.
Okay.
Is to get this to continue to live within our means. I mean, we've done that the last 2 years, but the numbers aren't looking good for the future. We've had surpluses the last 2 years, which is kind of unusual given where other levels of government are at with their deficits. But we've managed to bite the bullet and cut our costs where we could. And I want to keep trying to do that. But again, the numbers are going the other way. So we really have to double down on what we're trying to do. That's the first thing. Second thing is, if I had my wish, I would have our city inhabitants fully trained and able to compete for those jobs of those businesses that we're bringing into town. I mean, that's the disconnect. I mean, what I keep repeating is, it's only a partial victory when we bring Bystronic or Suzlon or Siemens Expands or any of these new companies that we're bringing into town. They're great successes, but they're only partial successes. We don't have, I don't think most of the citizens in Elgin could compete for those jobs. They're very high tech. Some of them manufacturing, but you're using computers. You're reading schematic designs. It's very technical, beyond my expertise.
Sure.
And until that would be my wish. If we could have Elginites that could compete for those jobs, and have that happen. It's not likely in the next 4 years, but at least we're moving in that direction within the next 4 years.
Okay.
John, let me ask you on that point. If let's just say that you're saying that right now the average citizen who's unemployed in Elgin doesn't have the skill to compete for those jobs, wouldn't it behoove the economic development group to look for businesses to bring into Elgin that your citizens in the short run would be qualified for?
Boy, that's a tough question, because I think what we're trying to do is we're trying to ride the trends. We're trying to bring into town the companies that are expanding and are looking, those areas of the economy that are hot. I mean, we have a cluster of companies that have come in that do green energy, mostly wind turbines, wind energy, and it's what you're saying is we got to kind of buck that trend and try to go out and find companies that are.
Yeah, and I'm not saying buck the trend, but maybe it's a combination of doing. And I guess it's sort of like the big argument of, like the oil versus renewable energies. Maybe it's for a while the ships have to run parallel. You have to drill, baby, drill, and also be investing in these other things. So maybe it's a matter of trying to accomplish both simultaneously. There's a lot of people that are unemployed in the workforce who are very content to have a $10, $11, $12 an hour job, because that's their education level, that's their comfort zone, and trying to force them to be educated to take this job, maybe that's not what they want to do. I don't want to go off too much on a tangent with that, but do you think maybe
I can agree
you
with
have
to an extent, but I think the economy is kind of driving where, we have to kind of face reality. The economy's changing and jobs are changing, and we got to kind of get our workforce to move in the direction that those jobs are moving, and be competitive for those jobs that are coming online. For instance, to kind of back up a little bit, anecdotally, we know that a large portion of our unemployed are, let's say, 25 to 50-year-olds. Again, this is all anecdotal. Male construction workers, because the construction industry got hit first, and they're still being hit. They're off the longest. But we don't have the hard data. We don't know exactly who these people are, what skills they have. But those guys, until the housing market and the construction market comes back, those guys are not going to be able to find jobs. So what do you do to help people like that? What kind of skills can they get to compete for the jobs that are coming to town? That's kind of a more concrete example of what we have to look at in the next 4 years.
Okay, and I'm sorry for interrupting. You were about to go on to your third item.
Third is something that I think your last council candidate picked on too, and that is people talk about it as transparency. I'm trying to change the conversation to one about citizen engagement, and that's something we've done some things on that I've pushed. We've changed the agendas that we print for the public and for us, and we've also published all the memos that we get, so you can go online and get everything we get as far as background information. I push for that. We're bringing a 311 system in 2013. That's something that I've been pushing for, and that's going to help us kind of make more clear to citizens what we do, what we can do.
And tell everyone what 311 system is.
It is a one phone call, one-stop source of questions or issues or ideas for the city. You can dial 311, whether it's a pothole, whether it's a light that's out, whether it's graffiti, any department, whether you want to find out how to open a business, what licenses you need, across all departments. One place is going to be able to answer any question. We're going to get the software in place where a file is opened, a file number is assigned, it's tracked, who gets it, what do they do on it, when do they do it, when do they get back to the citizen, what is the result.
That's cool.
So when you say citizen engagement, it's a very simple way to get right to it.
It's been taken as far in some cities as taking the iPhone or a PDA, personal PDA. You take a photo of a pothole, you put the address, you send it in, and boom, there's a file open. Wow. People get on it, and they get a response. And that's, it's going to help us. What I see a major problem with a lot of disaffection with government at all levels, but I think the local level is one that can really affect change in this area. Is people don't understand what we're doing. Right now there's a weekly report that I'm trying to get the city manager to publish for the city. Council gets it, and there's one that's nearly identical that goes to staff. It's kind of an internal weekly report. I want to see that pushed out to the public because, for instance, in one part of that report tells us what Public Works has done the last week, the number of potholes filled, the number of signs replaced, sewer boxes flushed out, you name it. Everything that they do, and it
That's correct.
Just to be able to see the extent of work that they do that people don't understand. I mean, they just don't understand what's going on in the background, and they don't comprehend that.
We're sorry.
So
I thought he was going to say alternative 911. That's why I looked at you. Because we all know in the city.
It's always got to be made clear. It's never a substitute for the emergency number.
Okay.
If you have an emergency, you always call 911. 311 is the
And
non-emergency.
we got about a minute left.
Yeah.
A minute and a half. So we're going to give you the opportunity to address the constituents why they should vote for you.
I just kind of laid out my major points.
All right, then you can leave now. No.
Thanks for coming.
And the need to continue with those. I mean, I think we're in the middle of an economic downturn. I think we've done a good job so far. It's going to get tougher to find those savings. I mean, we know that. We've got to hit the easy ones or the easier ones, and we need to continue to find ways to save money. And at the same time, trying to increase our workforce skill set and employability. And so, I want to continue on all three of those issues in the next 4 years.
Well, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
We really
so we
appreciate it.
didn't interrupt you for that closing thing. That's the time we keep our mouth shut.
And I'm gonna ask you one last quick question, and just sort of pro or con, and it's not unicorns, Dave. Sorry. No. Route 20.
Yeah.
Upgrade it or thoroughfare it?
Boy, I would love to have time to explain that, but I support the further study of boulevard system.
Well, if you get elected next week, you want to come back on the show?
At some point in one of these forums, I'll get a chance to explain that.
Well, thanks again for joining us. Our next guest will be in just a moment. It'll be Toby Shaw. Are we going to a quick break?
Quick break.
Okay.